Welcome to the Christian Business Leader Podcast, where Christ-following business leaders explore God's will and ways for business. This show is a ministry of the Center for Christianity and Business at Houston Christian University and features conversations with today's Christ-centered business leaders who are representing Christ faithfully in the business world. I'm your host, Darren Shear, and if you want to make your work, leadership, and company's culture more Christ-centered, you've come to the right place. On this episode, we're joined by the legendary Howard Chang. Howard Quigley Chang is a celebrated artist behind the first wave of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy line, which if some of y'all might not be familiar, but if you're my age, you definitely had these toys growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were just iconic toys based on the Ninja Turtles, originally the comics and then the TV show, and then it just took on a life of its own. He's now working on Ancients, which is a line of toys that reflects his journey of faith and creativity based on biblical characters, but he presents them in a way that you're just not going to expect, and it's really cool what he's doing. He's actually the second Christian toy maker of iconic toys from my childhood that I've interviewed on this show. We interviewed Brad Pedersen. Howard, I don't know if you know him, but his company is a Canadian-based company that brought Light Bright to market and a number of other toys as well. But really excited to have this conversation with you, Howard. Welcome to the Christian Business Leader Podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me on board, Darren. I'm excited for today's conversation.
Same here. Howard, when did you first realize God wants to be involved in your work in the marketplace?
Well, this new IP, we call it, Ancients, came about in a form of prayer 12 years ago when I first encountered God, when I really first gave myself to Jesus. I've been in and out of church following my parents. They weren't really strong believers, but it was more like a social gathering at church for them as immigrants from Korea. So when I first encountered God, I learned how to pray, and how most people, when they get inspiration, they get hope, they get healing from prayer. I get visions and dreams, and I saw these images of what I was supposed to create 12 years ago.
Yeah, and so when you were working with the Ninja Turtles and the other products that you had done kind of in the 90s, like you weren't serving God. You didn't. God was just sort of church was a social club.
I would go to church once in a while. It would just be like you go to church to be good. You do something bad, you go to church and you feel like you're good again. But that was me being a child of parents who just went to different churches, and they would plug me into these Sunday schools, and you would listen, but nothing was practiced at home or anywhere else. So I knew the stories, all these Bible stories that even today we're going to be launching through Ancients. But it wouldn't be right for me to say I was a believer before 12 years ago.
Huh. So what did you do between that time and back in the late 80s, early 90s with designing the Ninja Turtles? What was keeping you busy during that time?
Well, it's interesting. We're on a business leader, it's a business podcast, because at first I was just an artist for 8 years on and off while going to school. I worked and designed hundreds of Ninja Turtles, and it was like a phenomenon back then. You would design something, they would produce it, and it would just be gone from the shelves right away. So we were always busy producing and designing. And it wasn't just Ninja Turtles. We did Star Trek, Flash Gordon, Exo Squad, which went on for a few years, and a lot of McDonald's Happy Meal toys. I was involved in designing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the Looney Tunes flip cars, if I remember one of them. And so you do that for 8 years, and I think I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit in me, because I felt like I should be doing something on my own the whole time. So while I was working, I remember after about 7.5 years, you get burnt out from drawing all the time, right? It was a
Mm,
skill that I think God gave me. So I was pretty good at it. I was fast. I came home one day, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, Howard, you draw, dude? Can you draw me something?" I'm like, "No, pay me." So it now didn't become art became something that was work. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't fun anymore. So I left, and from that point, I say 20 years. Um, Long story short, I started over 20 businesses. Meaning when I start, I mean, you get a business license, you get it registered, you have business cards, you have a bank account. So I think that would qualify as starting a business, right? Like,
sure.
so we did all that. I went
20 times.
20 times. I have business cards to prove it. Manufacturing, and I was even a software developer at one time. Um, Automotive parts, a lot of apparel, fashion. One of them was manufacturing headwear with a friend of mine. He invited me to join him, and that did well. We went from zero to $12 million in sales in 4 years. I feel like that was my MBA, right? Which I never
Sure.
got. Um,
So that's way
and
better than the NBA.
yeah, so I did multiple companies where we did digital marketing. I would build websites and drive traffic through Google Ads and Meta Ads. We built our own software for e-commerce when Shopify was just starting, and they would do Google Ads against ours. So I've had a lot of experiences. A few were successful, but majority were failures. The amount of time and money that we lost, but like they all say, these experiences add up, and you become better at what you're doing.
Yeah. And so 12 years ago, when you gave your life to the Lord, did you kind of feel like you needed to do something that was Christian themed, or that was biblically themed to really kind of be on the right trajectory with the Lord? Did you feel like doing the sort of, I'll use the term secular, even though we don't really buy into that idea on this show anyway, but doing something that was more mainstream was not gonna really just be inspiring enough for you?
Well, yeah, well, I'll tell you what happened. It wasn't me getting a calling from God that I got to do something. I was just getting images. I couldn't explain what it was.
Hmm.
But when I was getting it, I felt like I had to draw it out on paper. So I would do those sketches real quick. Didn't exactly know what it was, but I would just keep drawing it up. I was going through a divorce. It was a very low time in my life. I was now a single dad to three young kids, 4 to 9 years old, three of them. And, I really gave myself to God because I couldn't handle it on my own, right? So one time when I was looking at the Christmas tree, I was thinking, hey, what can I give my kids that is, you know, biblical or faith focused? I looked online, I couldn't find anything. I mean, the closest thing at that time probably was VeggieTale,
VeggieTales.
just on his way out. But I guarantee if I bought any of those things for my kids, they would disown me as their father. They'll never forget. So my mind started clicking. I go, why can't they have um, something that's faith driven, that is not outdated, that is not embarrassing, that kids want, whether you believe or not, you want it, right? So I looked around, I couldn't find anything. Like you said, you had another toy maker that was on
Mhm.
before. I haven't heard of it, but I've heard of something called Kingdom Heroes, right? It wasn't as cool as I would want them to be, right? It was just likenesses or what their interpretation of maybe David and Goliath would look like, what Angel Gabriel would look like, Moses. And I don't think my kids would have liked that either, right? So I put two and two together. I look back and I go, hey, I used to design Ninja Turtles, man, for 8 years. And when I was doing it, I didn't think about it, but now that I look back, these were some iconic toys people still collect, and it's worth money. And Ninja Turtles are still going strong. Movies are still coming out. So I figured I would try to create something, and then I remember these visions that God gave me. So I started doing some paintings and trying to figure out what I need to do. And what I remember is when I'm doing a design for a company like Playmates Toys for Ninja Turtles, I can design a turtle figure in one day and they would approve it, it'll get done. But when I'm designing something for myself, it has to be perfect. And
Mhm.
and it took 12 years, right? For me to figure out that there is no such thing as perfect and only God is perfect. But for me, whatever he put in, I'm just going to do it. And even though I was unhappy with the designs, I just decided to go forth. I got remarried 6 months ago. I was with Gloria for 2 years before that. So she's the one, she's very faithful, right? And when she heard my idea, she was blown away. She's told me, you have to do it. And she's the one that told me it doesn't have to be perfect. And that struck a chord. And I go, you're right. It doesn't, why don't I just get it done? Otherwise, it would be another 12 years before I get to it. And it was almost like miracles happening back to back. Our partnership with our previous partners suddenly ended in December in a not so nice way. And my old boss, Steve Varner, had a booth at Comic-Con, which is the number one geek show in the world, world renowned. The difference between a Comic-Con San Diego and let's say Comic-Con LA, Comic-Con LA is $40 to get in, Comic-Con San Diego is $400 to get in, and you can't even buy the tickets, right?
Wow.
But to get a booth there is almost impossible, but he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. So I took it over in January. So in February, we got married and decided to present this idea at Comic-Con 6 months later, right? So in 6 months, finished 8 characters, designed them, got them sculpted, 3D printed, and barely made it on time, including the mini figurine versions. Um, so yeah, it was like a shotgun marriage, a shotgun business.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of our listeners are probably assuming when you talk about ancients being based on biblical characters that they kind of look like they did say, 3,000, 2,000 years ago, but with just a little bit more of a comic book spin on it. That's not what we're talking about.
No,
And
there was a
so our listeners that can't see what you're talking about, how do you describe this to them?
Well, I think the story came to mind of how spirits could manifest physically. So imagine in your head, I'm actually in the middle of getting a little comic book treatment done because we have a meeting with Playmates Toys this Friday. They want us to bring everything in and so that they can take a look at it. Imagine like a glowing orb, and that's the technology. It glows in different colors. Like David here, it glows in light blue with long tentacles that look like hair, like a predator figure, right?
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say it looks kind of like a cross between Predator and Mega Man.
yeah. So that technology comes into being a company like something like a Elon Musk company. They figured out how to do this, make this work, and it would manifest into physical form, right? It would glow, and the company decides, okay, we're gonna put them into robots so they can actually walk the earth and communicate with us. And there's an evil scientist who steals it, and because they can only manifest biblical spirits, right? He resurrects Goliath, Sisera, Pharaoh, Jezebel, and all the evil characters, and decides to take over the world and be his own god. His name is Professor Bale, right? So that's the origin story, and we're hoping to have a season one, season two, and so forth. The idea is, yeah, they're robots run by spirits, and this is David. He has his name on top,
So cool. They look
and
they look just awesome.
and they glow. The hair and the eyes would glow, and then the his significant Bible verse, 1 Samuel 17, written on the side, and they have little jetpacks in the back.
Nice.
You see a 20-inch Goliath behind me.
Yes.
I'm not lying when I say these images came to me during prayer.
Mhm.
This is Sisera up here. He's a lopsided robot. It's a Canaanite soldier who fought against Deborah. And we have the mini versions of them. These are the mini version of David, eyes light up.
So typically, what's done is the toys kind of come after the universe has been created, right? For the toy universe. Um, and I heard you saying on another interview that you kind of did it a little backwards, and that this is kind of more of the trend nowadays is starting with the toys, and then you begin to unpack the story and develop the world in which these characters live after the toys kind of launch. Uh, so what kind of is your vision for communicating this and getting people to buy into the narrative?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm not a writer. I'm an artist and toy designer, right? I have ideas for the stories, but I'm not someone you would hire to write a book or write a story. And it has been a growing trend. It's called art toys, where the toys itself, they have a particular look and it looks like they have a story, but they don't. You've probably heard of Kid Robot, and Huck G has a bunch of figurines and toys that he would design and sell, but there's no story behind it. Even Labubu, these collectibles, there's no real story. When Hello Kitty came out, there was no story. They kind of made a story from its popularity. So for us, it was like again a shotgun business where we had to make Comic-Con in 6 months, and I had a general idea of a story, but I never um, took it any further.
Yeah,
But now that we did Comic-Con and we're finishing up our Kickstarter, I have to get these things made, and we do have meetings and pitches we have to make to fundraise. I am putting together a 5-page origin story. I'm getting a lot of help from AI for the scenes and all that. I'm going to be sketching it out and including it in all the Kickstarter pledges. So yeah, we're working on that. The whole art toy industry or that space is a rapidly growing industry where it's not mass market toys like what Mattel, Lego, Hasbro would sell, but more like Pop Mart. Just where figuring collectibles are sold for hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars.
mhm.
That's
But you're
where,
wanting to teach kids, right? You want to use these to help teach kids the Bible, is that right?
well, the idea is to get these amazing stories from the Bible into everybody's hands. So, what would be my ultimate goal is to get these stories and get these figurines out there so people recognize them. Maybe strike a license with a major toy company if they're okay with something that's spiritual, right? But we don't have to say biblical. We can say they're spirit driven. There's a lot of biblical references throughout time in pop media, right? Look at Matrix. It's all like Mount Zion. Nebuchadnezzar is the name of the spaceship. I used to watch a TV show called Knight Rider when I was a kid, and the big bad truck was called Goliath. So you see biblical references everywhere,
Sure.
right? Even The Simpsons, even in just pop cartoons. So I don't think we're stepping on anyone's toes if we bring a David and Goliath into toys because you don't have to be a believer to know what David and Goliath is.
Right.
They bring it up all the time, even in the Ukraine war. This is a David and Goliath situation on CNN.
Hmm.
So these are inspirational stories of faith. They're not superheroes with super strengths, but they run on faith, right? This is a different type of storytelling, I would think. So yeah, we need some good writers to come out with some creative ways to put them in battle situations. And yeah, the goal is to have them in every household, hopefully, whether you are a believer or not. They'll be intrigued by these stories and how they handle the battles and how they fight good and evil. So when you see all the comic books throughout time, I think majority of them is about a war between good and evil, right? So it's the same model.
Yeah, there's actually a really interesting show that has come out on. Are you familiar with Angel Studios?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course. They
yeah,
did King of Kings recently. They have a
that's right.
lot.
That's right. And they have a kind of a lesser known series that's on there. I think originally it was going to be a series called Testament, and maybe they didn't get all of their funding after that first episode. Um, and then they just kind of turn it into a standalone movie called The Parables Retold. And so I think everybody should watch it. It's really fascinating, but it's kind of an alternate reality in which the Bible kind of in the events of the Gospels and the book of Acts transpire in modern day in sort of a another dystopian type environment or type world. And and so it's the apostles are on the run, and the temple guard is wearing like riot gear and coming after the Christians, and they are trying to get rid of these stories that Jesus told.
Wow.
And so interspersed in the story of kind of the modern retelling of the book of Acts, they are they're retelling the parables in a modern day context. So for example, well, I won't spoil it, but maybe I'll spoil one a little bit. The parable of the talents is told from the perspective of a music teacher, a world class piano teacher who was training these other world class prodigy students, and has given her skills, and then they have a choice of what they're going to do with their skills that she's given. And it's just it's really fascinating. But to be able to that's been one of the challenges, especially with you want to teach the Bible to your kids. You want your kids to consume biblically based content, but you're kind of limited in a lot of ways to these ancient Near Eastern contexts and
Yeah,
settings,
yeah.
and it just is harder to resonate with that. I think Superbook has done a great job with this. Have you looked into familiar with Superbook?
No.
Um, yeah, so this is put out by CBN 700 Club, but it actually started to reach Japanese kids who were really into manga comics. And so it's kind of that Dragon Ball Z animation style. And
Mm.
then they kind of rebooted it and updated the design several years ago. And they've got, I mean, dozens and dozens of episodes, but it's time travel with this robot named Gizmo who takes them back into time as the Superbook, which is the Bible that kind of beckons them to come learn about a story that relates to some specific situation that they're going through in their present day lives. Um,
Wow.
and so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting
What,
takes
what,
as
what
long
what was
as
that
we're
movie? What was that movie from Angel Studios again?
yeah, you can actually watch it for free. Go onto the Angel Studios app. But the
Oh,
last I checked, the title of it was The Parables Retold.
gotcha.
And I think they may have kind of spun off the kind of the retelling of Acts as a
Hmm.
separate episodic serial um, TV show. I, I
Mm.
think I think they may have gotten some more funding for that. I'm not really sure,
Uh,
but it was very well done. So as long as we're okay with um, not, kind of pushing the boundaries of what is going to be, because even with The Chosen, Have you watched the Chosen series?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I was writing it down looking for things.
Yeah. The
I
Chosen.
watched a couple of episodes, but I never really got into
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
know it's
Okay.
great.
Well, so even with the Chosen, people get upset about the literary license that they take with writing the screenplay and everything, and I mean, we got to kind of lighten up and let let God's word speak to us in different ways, and not be so critical when creators get in there and try to present the scriptures in a fresh and new way. Not that, I mean, as long as you're not actually changing the scripture and making sort of coming up with some other gospel or some other, um, you know, heresy or something like that. Certainly, we need to set boundaries against that.
Right.
But
Well, I
this is
feel like
really interesting what you're doing.
it could be a tightrope we're walking when it comes to trying to bring the Bible into pop culture, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to accept it? Who's going to be offended? Especially in today's climate, with in America, you're taking the Bible out of America, right?
Hmm.
And you are targeted if you speak the truth, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at how the world is and everything they see about speaking the truth, you look outdated if you talk about the Bible, right? So we're trying to merge scripture right now, starting with the Old Testament, but we're going to get into the New Testament too later on, right? But we want to bring that into pop culture in a way that you know, it's not offensive because they're robots, right? We're
Hmm.
not going up in your face and you're gonna need to believe in God. No, dude, we're gonna bring these stories to you. You might love it, and hopefully, because it is a tightrope we're walking. We want to offend people, but if you want to get out there and make a big impact, you have to find a door, a way to get there, instead of pushing it in their face, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the people that get the most offended about, something like, a toy line like this that is putting a different perspective on the scripture is going to be the pushback from Christians. Like, have you faced that very
Yeah,
much?
I heard that, and I was expecting it. There could be, very conservative
Yeah.
evangelicals might see it as you're twisting the Bible. You can't bring David into this light. But we haven't heard any yet. But before we started it was a passing thought that maybe they will be the harshest critic. But I don't know because we're not changing the Bible. We're using characters from the Bible, bringing it up to today's world and see how they would act. And in today's war, in our own made up story, right? So is that offending the Bible? I personally don't think so. And I really feel that God put this in to us to do this. And if God is leading us, I feel like I have to be obedient. I have to follow.
Yeah.
And
So is it the actual spirit of David that comes to inhabit these robots? Is that what you're suggesting here?
yeah, I mean, we have eight. We're starting with eight. They're actual spirits of David. Imagine they're now here, 2025, in a metal shell robot, and he still has memories of beating Goliath and being faithful to God, but he's now fighting another war here, right? In today's time. And we're
Hmm.
starting with Joshua, Gideon, Noah. They all have their own colors and different color auras. And we have Rahab from the book of Joshua. We also
Yeah.
have Deborah, the prophetess. So we're starting with all of them. But imagine years from now, it could be like Robotech meets Pokemon. Pokemon
Mhm.
has like numerous characters, and we can find all these characters in the Bible, right? There'll be the
Yeah.
main ones that people really recognize, could be the leaders. And then we're going to have Samuel the prophet. They might have a different body type. We're going to have a lot of different like soldiers, like the Canaanite soldiers, the Philistine soldiers. They're all fighting a war today,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. What, you know, while it may be and is far-fetched that the actual spirit of David would come and inhabit a robot, or the spirit of Deborah, where their actual the person of David, the person of Deborah would come back on the earth in that way, would be somewhat, well, quite implausible. I would say it's not implausible, the idea of in the way that, like, for example, Bruce Willis, I know that he has given up his voice rights to some kind of AI so that his voice can be used as an AI. Um, and you can go on to Chat GPT and say, talk to me about what you were, talk to me as if you were David, young David, getting ready to go fight Goliath. And talk
yeah,
to me as if you're literally getting ready to walk out on the battlefield. Now I'm out there on the battlefield. Now talk to me about what you're actually feeling as you're getting ready to, sling this stone. So I was thinking, like, what about a possibly kind of nuancing the story a little bit to where there's because I know you talked about you're looking for more storytellers as well. So I'm gonna at
yeah,
the
I might be writing the story right here.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. So the idea of, let's say there's a kid, and the
mhm.
kid is a computer prodigy, where he knows how to program AI, and he knows the scripture. He knows how to program these robots to think like David, to act like David, to do the things that David did, but still have some of the same character flaws. And the kid sort of becomes, sort of like, I'm thinking of Paw Patrol. If you're probably familiar with Paw Patrol.
I heard of
Um,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So Ryder is the kid that adopts all these dogs, these stray dogs, and then one of them is sort of the fire dog and the police dog and the construction dog, but Ryder is the kid that really sort of holds them all together. Um, I would say that would be more palatable for a lot of Christians than the idea
They're
of
saying that they're actually
spirits.
resurrected,
Yeah,
right?
I think doctrinally there's going to be a lot of pushback on
Mhm.
that.
Well,
Um,
the idea was that initially we were calling them AI, biblical AI robots, right? But then it became like anyone can do that. Like you said,
mhm.
ChatGPT could be inside these robots, and it's just so simple. So the technology is a 20-year-old technology that I brought up. Is supernatural biorobotics, and it's like a mix between biogenetics and machine learning AI that brought these robots that they were summoned from the spirit world, right? So maybe they were summoned from the spirit world, and their presence got pushed into this machine, AI learning, whatever. I don't know. There's got to be a way to make it so it's not offensive that we're saying that they're resurrected, but it is them. It's undeniably them, right? But something beyond what a regular AI program can do. So it has to be a little bit more, I don't know, just deeper than just to say is AI robots. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a way to do that without saying it's the actual spirit of the person, because there's not really a biblical basis for that. I mean, there's the great cloud of witnesses, that Hebrews talks about. I can think of Saul conjuring Samuel, which was something he shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
in
through a
terms
medium.
of, yeah, through a meet, through a witch. So, when you talk about bringing spirits from the spirit world, typically that is going to result in some demonic activity, um, not not the kind of, I mean, there's angelic activity, but the idea of going to heaven and then coming back on the earth and your spirit is now going to be free to inhabit a robot is going to be really hard for a lot of Orthodox Christians. But to
Well,
be able, but to spin it to where, and I think it can, there can be more of an emotional connection with the characters than just, this is just, this is just a character that was programmed by a computer. But there's still, I think, a lot to be said for if the kid is the one doing the programming, your connection is also with that child, and that child knows the word so much, and he so wants to see um, people living the way God intended, and and modeling what has been modeled for us in the scriptures, to the point where he can't find too many other people willing to do that, so he's going to have to make his own robots.
right. I mean, that you make a good point because I'm really glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, it's, as I was just watching, some before we got on, and thinking about this, the spirit is where I get a little bit uncomfortable, and where I think
Right, right.
others will get
Well,
uncomfortable.
if you saw our Kickstarter video, all the videos, we say AI driven uh, spirit robots, right? So it was originally that, and we try to dive a little deeper. So we are using the term AI for this, right? But we want to go deeper by saying they are biogenetic interfacing AI. So like maybe this AI is so mechanical, it's just so computer, right? But maybe this orb and this luminar technology, it actually helps them feel or something, right? So I don't know. You're right. You bring a good point. We were kind of torn between AI and their actual spirits. There was a deep debate about it.
Because, like, eventually, if you can actually put like an AI in the robots and have them talk to you as though they are David, and try to dial in the voice and everything, to where you can ask them these questions and talk to them as if this is like a far advanced version of the Teddy Ruxpin I grew up with, which, also my guy Brad Pedersen, they helped bring that to market as well. But if I'm going to get this toy, and I'm going to say you're going to actually commune with the spirit of David as you're talking to that toy, I think parents are going to
I
say,
freak out.
heck no. uh
There's this company. We were just at a conference a month ago. There was a company in India that just got funded like tens of millions to do this technology. It's AI. It talks to you, like you can make a toy talk to you, um, beyond what Alexa or all these machines can do. And it does machine learning, knows your name, and starts talking to you. And we were talking about putting that technology into our figurines one day,
yeah.
and so that we were thinking of using NFC chips so they could trigger each other. So let's say, these small uh, keychains. I have a Joshua, right? And then I'm carrying around my backpack. And Darren, you came with a David um, figurine. And then if they come within a certain distance and they start talking, hey, David, how's it going? And they were speaking like, the King James biblical, hey, how art thou? Right? Each other. So I thought that would be kind of fun. But you're right. The whole part about, is it AI? Is it the actual spirits? we were on the fence, kind of left and right of that. Just AI seems like it's everywhere now. Anyone can do it. How can we go a step further than just AI? How far can we go? That's the big debate.
Yeah. Well, out there in the mainstream, and they're buying like demon toys and all this stuff that's
Yeah.
going on out there. Like the world doesn't care. I think in targeting Christians and Christian families who do want to stay true to the scripture and are very cautious about what they, the toys that their kids play with and the shows that they watch, um, getting a little more orthodox with the theology, I think would be better for everybody.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I know that Superbook, they have, you can see in the credits that they have theologians that that are very much involved in all of the storytelling and what making sure that we're not pushing things too far. And actually, one of those professors was one of my professors at Regent University, which is the same campus where they make Superbook. But this is such a cool concept. These robots just look awesome, and there's so much potential. And you obviously have the skills to be able to design these and bring them to market. And so I'm really excited to see where this heads.
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter was just to get out there and see how people react. We couldn't find our audience, so like we talked about before, the art toy audience is really hard to connect with. But we're out looking for funding, trying to raise money. So hopefully we'll get there sooner than later. We're trying to pick up some partnerships with maybe major toy manufacturers and get these things out there as soon as we can. We're gonna miss Christmas if we're gonna do it manufactured like in China. So we're gonna continue to make these here. Made in USA, painted by the artist himself. Get it out before Christmas.
Awesome. Well, so everybody can go to ancients.com. That's ancient with a Z on the end.com. Anything else you want to say about how people can get involved?
Yeah, I mean, follow our Kickstarter, which is Ancients with the Z _official. Please follow us. We just started this Kickstarter, so we're trying to get as many people on board as possible. We'll keep you guys updated on what's going on. If you want to go to ancients.com, our website, you could fill out our email subscription. We're going to send out updates, and we should have our online store up within a few weeks. We've just been focused on Kickstarter. We want to take pre-orders. We're going to try to go to all these shows, DesignerCon, WonderCon, be there to interact with potential fans and new fans and existing fans and show them what's coming up. We're going to come up with Moses and Pharaoh next. We might do Jacob and Joseph.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Ancientswiththez.com is the website. Go check it out. Check out the Kickstarter, and you can go ahead and get one. And it'll be painted by the artist himself. Howard, thank you for spending time with our listeners. It's been fun to chat with you today.
Oh, it was very insightful today. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Christian Business Leader Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tune in for the next episode as we continue exploring God's will and ways for business.